Mining in Western Australia is 44% of the state economy. But yeah, I mean, look, hundreds of millions of dollars a day. Labor follows capital. It's not rocket science. The approval space is like the great white hope of trying to pull back and reclaim a bit of our competitiveness. The question for us is how do we remain indispensable? How do we ensure that the world needs us? I think I'm going to disappoint you. It's iron ore. We could pretty much do the Pilbara all over again. There's still a lot to be optimistic about. We've got an incredible amount going for us for people who know what the hell they're doing.
Welcome back to another episode on the Gold Room podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Today I have Aaron Morey, the CEO of the WA Chamber of Minerals and Energy. Mate, thanks very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Mate, before we start, how'd you get the bloody shiner? People, they might not be able to see it, but I can.
Actually, funnily enough, I played a game of footy, first time in 3 years last weekend, and I was down the bottom of the pack, trying to get the hard ball, and copped a knee in the face. So that's what you get for being an old man and trying to relive your old glory days.
Bloody hell! How old are you?
44.
Okay, mate. Oh, you got bloody good colour in your hair. I'm 42 and mine's all gone.
You got more than me though.
Sucks. Anyway, mate, look, let's get into it. The life and the times.
I grew up eastern suburbs of Perth, so around Midland Way, and my whole life was footy. Age of 6 to 26, captained the club, just deeply entwined in footy. I was reasonably smart. Got into a bit of trouble through school. Dropped out of uni. Didn't really go to plan.
What were you studying?
I did psych right out of uni. Okay. And then after that, actually worked for a labour hire company. So like Midland Brick, 3 a.m., rolling grass, just waiting around to see if there was a job around. Then I became a postie, moved down to Bunbury. My wife was working at the ABC down there, and I was a postie for 3 or 4 years. And
your wife was working?
She was a journo, at ABC.
And you're a ride around on a bicycle?
I was riding on a motorbike, a little 110, getting swooped by magpies and chased by dogs.
What?
And feeling like I'd sort of wasted my life. Had this gnawing sense of waste in my talents, and so I think I was 24 and went back to uni, study economics, because I stumbled across an economics textbook in the Bunbury Public Library, of all places, and I thought, this is interesting, and then I just worked my backside off. Did really well. Went over to Melbourne, worked for a mob called the Productivity Commission. And then big break was before the 2017 state election. I managed to get hold of Ben Wyatt's number, so he was the shadow treasurer in opposition, and shot him a text and said, "Hey mate, if you want to be a good treasurer, then you need me." And for whatever reason, and we still joke to it this day, the mad bugger hired me sight unseen. Wow. And that was awesome. So I went from like a bit of a ivory tower institution straight into politics. And so I sort of think of it as like a reverse laundering sort of process. I sort of went in clean, came out dirty, and then drew on that political experience onto the Chamber of Commerce, and now Chamber of Minerals and Energy for about 6 months. Yeah.
Mate, that's amazing. Let's get into CME.
Yeah.
What sort of what have you walked into?
Yeah,
was it a great operation before?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm really lucky. I've inherited a great team. It's about 37 odd folk, mostly in Perth, but we've got some people out in the regions as well. The organisation's hired really well over time, inherited really good people, but it's got a really good reputation. So it's really trusted by its members, but it's also really trusted by government as well. And so I get in this curious sort of situation at CME where my members will tell me things they don't want government to know, and government will tell me things that they don't want my members to necessarily know, at least straight away. And so you're sort of trying to dance in that kind of overlapping Venn diagram and trying to achieve outcomes whilst retaining trust of all the stakeholders. So it's a big responsibility. But 6 years before that, in a chamber, in an advocacy organisations, and a bit of time in politics prepared me pretty well. So touch wood, I haven't stuffed it up yet. There's still time.
Mate, amazing. Do you think Australia is losing its competitive edge in mining?
I do. There is a lot. There's still a lot to be optimistic about. Like we got an incredible amount going for us. We've got lots of human capital here. That's the cold economist's word for people who know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah.
And so that's a great asset to draw on. We've obviously got some of the best deposits in the world, and we still rate near the top of those Fraser indexes for the best deposits in the ground. As I said, great people.
I just want to jump in there for a second. Yes, you're right. We've got great people. Is there word on the street in the employment end of town that just like what we saw with the not mass exodus, exodus to Africa 10, 15 years ago, everyone was expat in Africa, good money, taking all that top end knowledge. Are we going to be seeing that to Canada or back to Africa, even the Middle East?
Yeah, I mean, you look around the world, and developed and developing countries alike are pulling out all the stops. I mean, they want development. The world's changed really quick. There's been some pretty significant shifts that have been accelerated through the Hormuz crisis in recent times, and everyone's sort of woken up around the integrity of supply chains, particularly those that lead into defence, manufacturing, energy production. I think there's a deeper appreciation for energy sovereignty. And countries have worked this out. And it's not just the developing countries that are hungry, but I look at the United States, I look at Canada. Europe's another case entirely. But those Northern American countries, they're almost just as hungry as the developing countries. And so in terms of that capital, I mean, Labor follows capital. And so ultimately, if we do see, a significant uptick in investment in other parts of the world, Labor follows. It's not rocket science. Even look within Australia. I mean, Western Australia's attracted people because the jobs have been here. And you
think CGT will change that?
Yeah, no, CGT is a significant concern for me and for the industry. I mostly represent larger companies, but where we can see that that's a significant risk for the future pipeline for the industry, and I think it's based on a fundamentally flawed premise that the government's trying to achieve some sort of parity in the taxation burden across labour and capital, but recognising that those capital investments are highly risky. They're not conducted by those big mining companies. They're mostly done by mum and dad investors. And yet at the same time as a country where, like, for example, our Prime Minister's meeting with the President of the United States and talking about the importance of developing rare earth projects and other critical minerals projects, and yet at the same time we're putting up the taxation on the ventures that are there to explore for those projects. It's incongruous.
Junior explorers, they're the ones out there looking for the mum and dad investors. And if investment dries up, then where do people go? They start looking to put their money elsewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. They just go into those safe equity markets, and there's probably be a bit of an uptick for some of those larger companies. But in the long run, we're not going to be developing that pipeline. And so, that's high on the concern list. Look, I always hold out hope that common sense will prevail, where we engage very constructively with government, both levels of government, and we'll continue to make the case.
Yeah, beautiful. Man, I want to get into something that a lot of you would hear this all the time, and I'm speaking to the perfect person about it, the approvals process.
Yeah.
Right? Permitting, everything. You'll be hearing it from everywhere in mining. It's difficult. What does CME say about it?
I see it as particularly important. I mean, if you look at the pillars of public policy that dictate how competitive as a jurisdiction we are, going back to your original question, we're never going to be a low labour cost jurisdiction, and we don't advocate for that. I mean, we'd rather avoid some of the difficult industrial relations challenges we're having at the moment.
You cheeky bugger.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course it's on the list. We'd rather avoid that. Energy costs are going up considerably at the same time as well. The approval space is like the great white hope. It's the great white hope of trying to pull back and reclaim a bit of our competitiveness because it just makes no sense in terms of the duplication that can occur, within a government or across levels of government. We're currently going through negotiations with the federal government at the moment on their changes to the federal environmental laws. And I'll be honest, it's a constant effort. It's a constant battle. I mean, those conservation groups, which are ideologically opposed to extractive industries per se, they will continue to pursue settings that just make it more difficult for our sector. And so we're in the game. We're being listened to by government. We spent a lot of time building those relationships and just making sure that they understand that they need to strike a balance between protecting the environment whilst ensuring we can develop new projects.
What is the chamber looking at with in regards to uranium policy, uranium mining here in WA?
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a huge opportunity. I mean, when I was at CCI, I commissioned a report that sort of had a bit of a look at the 4 projects that have been commonly talked about in WA and what that could mean. And I think from memory, it was around a billion's worth of royalties we could raise and about 9,000 jobs. Look, there's a few areas of resistance. Sometimes it's around workplace health and safety. Sometimes it's around nuclear proliferation.
Yeah.
On that,
a lot of that's misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Or just lack of information.
Yeah, I mean, look, for both of those, I mean, let's go to the first one, health and safety. They're doing it pretty safely across the border in South Australia.
Yeah.
No dramas whatsoever.
Or how about a nuclear reactor right in the heart of Sydney? Yeah.
Yep. And of course, AUKUS is commonly referred to as well. On the proliferation point, I mean, the timing of this podcast couldn't be better. I mean, we've literally just had an agreement signed between our Prime Minister and the Prime Minister of India to sell them uranium. And the Australian government would not have done that if they were concerned that uranium would be used for the wrong purposes. So the oversight in that respect from a national perspective is pretty robust. And so, look, from our perspective, there's a significant opportunity. I mean, if I think about nickel coming off a couple of years ago, wouldn't it have been great with sort of nickel coming off a bit, uranium was coming up.
Absolutely.
And all those people that could transfer to other jobs. And so, look, for us, we recognise you got to be pragmatic in this game, and maybe there's a path forward where, there's some sort of scientific inquiry or something that the government can call for, where we can really flush this out, test it properly, make sure it's independent and robust, so that we can, if we need to play a game of, flushing out the concerns and testing them through proper, robust science, then that might be the path forward. Yes, it's longer than what you would ideally take, but in this game, it's sort of art of the possible, and there could be a pathway there forward.
Well, we do things really well. with getting rid of rad waste with the Talus facility. You know, like that. That's amazing. How many times have you spoken to Jonathan Fisher? Surely you know who he is, right?
Well, I was literally just listening to him in the radio on the way here.
Loves getting on the airways. He's bloody ripper.
And I have chatted with him a couple of times, and I've received many LinkedIn DMs as well, as I'm sure you have to.
Yeah, my WhatsApp, like every time there's a notification on my phone, I'm just it's either going to be my kids or Jonathan Fisher.
You got to pay him.
Oh, he's bloody good. He's good. Critical minerals. Let's get into critical minerals. Obviously, the importance all of the way around the world. But here in Australia, Western Australia, what should we be doing? And once again, it comes back to junior explorers, right?
Yep.
Also explorers that are out there looking for gold or nickel or whatever, and then they go back through their results and go, oh shit, actually we've got this, and this. Gallium a few months ago or 6 months ago, hot topic, and everyone was like, "Whoa, we've got that. And hang on a minute, you're a gold miner, but we've got this critical mineral that these other blokes want to get their hands on."
Yeah, and that's right. I mean, the first opportunity is sitting there on the shelf, as you rightly say, whether it be gallium in and amongst the bauxite, some of the mineral sands guys like Tronox, for example, with some rare earths in and around there. I mean, look, the Iluka deposit is a historical deposit as well. Yep. Fascinating what's happening up there with Northern Minerals. I mean, that's a seriously exciting deposit. I mean, that's heavies. That's your heavies, and so as your listeners would no doubt know. The heavies are what enable you to operate in high heat environments, and so defence and energy applications. And of course, there's all the goings on there with trying to remove the Chinese equity interests there. So there's a bunch of.
Why are they doing that?
Oh, it's just so strategically important. Those heavies are just so incredibly valuable.
Why are they trying to remove the Chinese investment?
That's a good question. For the
national security,
it would probably be along
security.
Those lines. I mean, look, that's the decision-making framework that the Treasurer is operating in.
Does that cause tensions with Australia and China?
Well, it does, and it's a real tricky one. I mean, they are such an important investor in so many of our projects. I mean, you look at the recent PLS investment, underpinned by Chinese investment. Without them, we would not have achieved half of what we've achieved here, and importantly. For all the discussion around like the importance of ESG, but also geopolitical and supply chain integrity, no one's willing to pay a brass razoo for it. Yeah. No one's willing to pay a cent for it. So at the end of the day, if you want to get a project up, you need some good finance, you need some offtake, and for all the rhetoric out of other developed countries, it does not. As far as we're aware, it hasn't to any significant extent led to a willingness to pay, and so China will continue to be an important part of the mining sector here. But it's a bit of a dance that we're in, particularly around some of those sorts of sensitive deposits.
Yeah. Okay. What about energy security? And do you think Australia can realistically hit their decarbonisation targets?
Look, it's a challenge. The energy debate's been really interesting. So coming out of Hormuz, everyone's kind of retreated into their own corner. Team Renewables is like, we've got to be all in on renewables. Team Hydrocarbon's been, we've got to be all in on hydrocarbon. I think it's a false dichotomy. I think absolutely for your domestic energy mix, that renewables should play an important role. I think there's some features there that are really good. They're very widely distributed. They're not concentrated in one area. So from a strategic physical security point, they've got some good features there. Yes, they lack. They have intermittency, etc. They can't do the job on their own. But that marginal cost is low. But in terms of reliability, scale, density, nothing comes close to hydrocarbons. And so that's the domestic energy mix. And the important thing that people need to do, and when they think about policy and what we need as a country, is your domestic energy mix is one thing. How you position yourself as indispensable in the global economy is another. And so we find ourselves in a corner of the world where our biggest security partner is not around the corner. He's on the other side of town. And so for us, Australia, it is even more imperative that we position ourselves as being indispensable in the world economy. And you saw it through the height of the Hormuz crisis when our Prime Minister was speaking to those Southeast Asian nation countries that refine petrol and diesel, etc., talking about our continued supply of LNG.
He did a good job with that.
He did. No,
he did a great job.
And we praised them. He absolutely did the right thing in terms of where he focused his efforts and energies, and he executed well. And so, question for us is how do we remain indispensable? How do we ensure that the world needs us? Because without that, we're sitting ducks. And so
everyone's pretty bloody interested in our bloody gas supply. So I think we've got it dialed in there.
Yep. Yeah, gas and the critical minerals.
Yeah.
Comes back to that. And look, iron ore's going to be still continue to be huge as well. You're going to need all that steel to urbanise the world and to roll out transmission infrastructure, etc.
Yeah. You've got a couple of young kids?
Yep. 2,
How old?
10 and 8.
Yep. 10 and 8. So last year, my young fella, he's 11. Last year he came home from school and said, "Dad, why are you in mining?" And I said, "Mate, well, one, because it's paying the bloody bills." And he said, "But it's not sustainable." I said, Who said that, mate? He said, "My teacher." And I said, I've told this story to other people that have been on the show. I said, "Mate, your teacher's a dick." And then I realised, oh shit, I can't say that. I said, "Oh mate, your teacher's probably not a dick, but that's a silly thing to say. If we weren't mining, how would you get to school in the morning? Those soccer goals that you're kicking your ball into, that's made of steel. How else are you going to have it? Turn your iPad off, get rid of your PlayStation, because that's all from mining." So what do you think, and how? Explain to me the mining's contribution here in WA for all of Australia and the world.
Yeah, I mean, I share the concern and frustration.
Can you hear it in my voice?
Yeah, and look, I hear it in my members' voice as well. Like my members are, head up mining companies, and their kids come home and they have a similar experience, and so a lot of our campaign work is targeted at young adults around the role of minerals and what role it plays in everyday life. We think that's a really important message to get through. And look, even prior to then, we would like young kids to see the value in the industry, so they choose it. They choose it as a career, so that we don't get too many kids going into courses that don't lead anywhere. A
diplomatic way of saying Pilates instructors or something like that.
Things that society is.
We can delete his
things
saying, if you like.
things that are in professions that are very well supplied in society, rather than the engineers and the geologists that we really need. I'm not sure if that sort of got to your question, Josh. But
it's just WA's mining contribution, like how important it is for Australia, like all the mining that we do here, the tax and the everything that's sent over east. Do you think they're appreciative?
Yeah, it's or
are they
not fully
it become expected?
Not fully. I think there's still more work to do. Unfortunately, like a lot of policy is set in Canberra. So you have staffers, political Like, look at like a David Pocock. So he's a senator for the ACT.
I rate him.
Great footballer. But probably no understanding at all or appreciation of the role that the sector plays in the country.
He's not a fan of the. Are you referring to him not being a fan of the oil and gas tax?
Yeah, he wants to increase.
He's pretty outspoken about that, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right. And so, yeah, look, I do think that there's an underappreciation there. I mean, if you look across, and then to Western Australia, look across the country. So mining in Western Australia is 44% of the state economy. It's called gross value added. It's like once you subtract all the inputs from the sector, like what's its kind of net contribution to the state economy. So 44%, got up to 50, I think, a few years ago, just under. Anyway, you look across the country, I think the next highest share of any state or territory is the mining sector in Queensland, which is 18%. Like where all our chips are on mining, and mining keeps coming in. So that's great. But yeah, I mean, look, hundreds of millions of dollars a day, and that's really important to acknowledge, particularly at this time when we're looking at the largest iron ore export hub in the world being held ransom by a couple of unions. One that we watch close.
Let's get into that. Well, what's going on with BHP? What's going on up there? What are the unions up to?
Well,
you got a few bloody mouthy buggers getting in there, riling everyone up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and look, and what we found a couple of weeks ago when the MAC and South Flank agreement got up is that when workers are left to negotiate with their employers, you get a really good, sustainable, generous, reasonable outcome. They voted up that agreement. The unions have been focusing their efforts and energies into Port Hedland. Look, they signalled from the beginning that their intention was to cause disruption. I mean, they literally said it. The Secretary of the ETU flagged it. They flagged that they would get to this. That's what they've been doing
since the start of unions.
And that's how
run by mafia.
Yep.
And
that's how you justify your place in an ecosystem, because you look at the record, you look at what's been achieved in the mining sector in WA, highest jobs, 57% up on the average wage, steady improvement in conditions, more diversity and inclusion in the workplace, royalties just going through the roof ever since they left. So unions sort of left around that 2000 period. Around then was around the time of the last big strikes. Employment's increased like by 55,000 people. I think it's about 100 million in state royalties alone. This is before you get to company tax. I think iron ore production up fivefold. And that was all done without unions. And so when you re-enter the space, which they've done, how do you justify yourself in that, given that history? Well, you justify yourself by being noisy and causing as much disruption and trying to cause unrest, trying to stoke people up. People are very tribal, right? Like a lot of what they do in terms of like it's us versus them, that'll appeal to a lot of people that head up for FIFO, and they know that. Unfortunately, it's going to hurt us in the long run because we learnt that through history. I mean, the last time we had problems with unions, that's when Brazil took off. That's going back to the start of our conversation. The capital went there, then the labour went there, and a new competitor was born. That's a concern for us. But
BHP's got options all over the world. They want to. It's financially viable up there, but at the end of the day, if it becomes too expensive, there's so many other jurisdictions that they can bugger off to.
Yep, yeah, there is options for all companies all around the world, and like I said before, the policy environment in a lot of those other countries is conducive. Yep. But at the same time, I still do retain some optimism that that there's still enough going for us here, and if we can get these issues sorted out, iron them out quick, smart, then we can we should be optimistic going forward.
what do you believe is the next $1 billion opportunity here in Western Australia if Canberra and Perth work together? What do you think is can you answer that?
Yeah, I can. Well, absolutely, I can, and I think I'm going to disappoint you. It's iron ore.
Oh, you're not not disappointed at all.
We can do it all again.
Yeah.
We can do it all again. There are billions of tons still there. I think we estimate total value of iron ore demand out to 2040 is something like $37 billion worth. We've still got we could pretty much do the Pilbara all over again. But
start to finish. Like it may start
like
to now.
in terms of what we've produced so far, I reckon there's just as much still in the ground.
Wow.
Now look, that's not to downplay the strategic importance of a lot of those other commodities. I mean, still an absolute heap of gold out there, which is going to be needed for financial stability. Still a lot of bauxite. It's not just in the southwest; it's up in the north as well. And you're probably looking at hundreds of billions of dollars worth there, and that's a really important metal in the energy transition because it's lightweight. It's really, really important. Lithium's coming back. I don't give up on nickel. I don't give up on nickel at all. There's still some decent deposits out there with some new investment. We can get that going again. There's enough rare earths around. We've got some manganese, and there's copper plays as well. I mean, copper. There's really good money in copper. You can see it in the big companies and
Absolutely.
where they're putting money around the world. Do our deposits stack up? We'll find out soon enough. Rio's obviously got some interest up there with Winnow. It's all there, and of course, I haven't, of course, mentioned the Browse project opportunity with LNG, and that comes straight back into what we're talking before about the energy piece. Underpins our domestic energy supply, but also makes us indispensable to the world. That one project more than any stands out as a game changer for us.
Last one for me is we always do this, and look, thank you very much. You're a bloody wealth of knowledge. I'll tell you what, the transition from bloody postie to CEO is just phenomenal. You've done very bloody well for yourself. Your wife must be proud. Yeah. Your family must be proud.
Well, shit, we started going out when I was unemployed, so I owe her a lot.
Absolutely, mate. Look, last question I've been asking heaps recently, and a lot of people have come in and got back to us and said, look, thanks very much for asking that because it's a very important question. The best advice that you have ever received?
Don't
Put it in the wrong mailbox.
Don't drive on the grass. I don't know if I got good advice, but if I can slightly tweak it, like the best lesson I learned, like working with Ben White. So like he was the state treasurer, he's the minister for finance, for energy, for Aboriginal affairs, and he wasn't aligned to a union or a part of the party, and so like he was just a bloody big job, and front and cameras, left, right, and centre, live interviews here, there, answering questions from opposition, getting hammered by your own cabinet, and he'd always just shrug his shoulders and have a laugh and stay relaxed, and that's really stuck with me. Like I've never really, overthought things, allowed things to get to me. I think just witnessing him able to operate in that environment made me think, at the end of the day, we're all just, we're all the same. We all go home at the end of the day, and thankfully, I'm not, so not doing anything that is life or death, and so I think that's made me quite relaxed and taught me just to sort of prepare for things, but then don't overthink it and back yourself. So that's something that stuck with me.
Very important. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
Another day tomorrow.
That's right.
You know, carry on with your work. Go home to your family. Stay safe. Do the right thing.
Yep.
I appreciate that. Aaron, look, thank you very much for coming and spending the time with me, mate. WA's in great hands. The mining companies are in great hands, and with a bit more support from local government, and I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. We should be optimistic. I appreciate it very much, Josh.
Not a problem, mate.
Cheers.
Thanks very much for tuning into another episode on the Gold Room podcast. If you loved this episode or even just liked it a touch, subscribe. It'll bloody help us out. Thank you.